The Hustings. The way things are going to work, we have candidates speaking for sort of up to 5 minutes. I'll cut you off at 5 minutes if you're going on. Yeah, we'll just sort of get going. And questions we'll take sort of after every couple of sort of officer positions. We'll take questions for people, sort of try and keep things fairly quick. So yeah, we'll start with you. Do you need to get off, Alex? So we'll start with you.
Before she trashes the place.
Okay, no worries.
Hello there, I'm Alex Cooper. I'm a first year social work student. The reason why I wanted to run for welfare is because I believe in every student's emotional and physical welfare, and that we need to have an all-rounded university experience. You know, education is really important, but there's the other side as well, making friends, making alliances, trying something new, and that all contributes to a really good, healthy welfare. So I'll just break it down because I haven't got very long. I've got some aims that I'm just going to line out to you that I think 99% I'll be able to achieve. First of all, I'm going to want to collaborate with the Oxford Brookes safety bus, which I used to co-drive, when I want them to work with Ruskin so that students who go out in the night have a safe way to get home, which is cheap. It's only £1. They'll drop you off at your door. Because Dunstan Hall is in a really isolated area. It's dark. There's not good lighting. So having that extra safety that someone would be able to come and pick you up and drive you home is a bonus for everyone. It's also good for volunteering, which will lead me on to another point. I'm going to try and establish welfare wardens in every halls of residence, and they can be a first port of call for people that are living here. And then we would have weekly or bi-weekly meetings to find out what everyone needs. I also want to get a student-friendly common room, not only for the people who live here, but also the people who come in. We need somewhere to heat up our own food. Just a couple of microwaves might do. For the people who live here, somewhere comfortable with sofas, cushions, that you're not sitting on plastic chairs so you can socialise with each other. I want to also set up societies, not only sports societies, but your drama societies, your knitting club. I know a lot of people want to do a knitting club. To get people getting to know each other. No one knows anyone from any other course except the course you're on, so broaden our horizons. I'm going to work closely with the student councillor as well, and also set up meetings about how to find safe and legal accommodation in Oxford so that you're not stung by shoddy landlords. The other thing I want to do is get easily accessible contraception on site, which would be free, and also have a drop-in sexual health clinic once a week and access to free chlamydia testing. I want to promote awareness campaigns such as Breast Cancer UK, Black History Month, World AIDS Day, the usual ones, and also to get a stay and play for students with young families. There's a lot of us with under threes. I have one, she's here. So knowing who's got little kids, being able to come together where they can play, we can run to the library and get some books. Everyone gets to know each other, make some alliances with parents, so we don't feel alone. Because working, studying and bringing up a family can be a bit difficult. So I'm really passionate about being a welfare officer. I care about everybody. That's probably why I'm doing social work. And I believe I can achieve everything that I've set out to. But if there's anything you want to bring to the table, I'll happily do it. Open door policy, I'm always on my email, on my phone. I'm happy to talk to anyone. So if you want someone who cares about not just your emotional welfare, but your physical welfare, all-round student, then you should come me. And email me if you've got any questions. Or now.
Hello, I'm Christy and I'm standing for the position of Women's Officer. I'm a first year student studying youth and community work. During my first term on this course, I feel I've benefited so much and trained dramatically. I feel I've grown in confidence and I want to use this empowerment to help other women students on campus. I see the role of Women's Officer as to unite the women of Ruskin. This could be through a network of support and knowledge, women's groups and events. The main aim is to enable us to grow, develop and be empowered. I understand the importance of confidentiality, sensitivity and care, and I will uphold these whilst working with working professionally within the role. I will work alongside other members of the Ruskin Student Union to create a student union that we can truly be proud of. Do you have any childcare problems, health issues or safety concerns? Have you experienced sexism or sexual harassment whilst here at Ruskin? As Women's Officer, I will represent, support and advocate for students who require it. Would you like subsidised self-defence classes, a parent and child area, free condoms, pregnancy tests, chlamydia tests, a sexual health clinic, a Tampax machine, or maybe free moon cups? As Women's Officer, I will do my best to ensure our needs are met. Recently, I spent the day at 1 Billion Rising. It was an event on Bond Square in Oxford about violence against women. I feel as Women's Officer, to keep us all informed and up to date with campaigns such as this on a local, national and international scale. Upcoming soon is the International Women's Day Festival, the Oxford International Women's Festival, and Reclaim the Night. I do not pretend to know all the answers, and I know I have a lot to learn from other women at Ruskin. That is why I want to set up both a women's group and a feminist women's group. In response to any issues or concerns regarding childcare or health issues, I am prepared to research for solutions and to make connections with Oxford University and Brookes University so that we can benefit and make the most of our time here. I feel so passionate about studying at Ruskin, and I want to be involved in the student union so I can be part of improving the experiences of students here.
I'm Amy, I'm running for Equalities Officer. I apologise if I'm a little incoherent, haven't had much sleep. The issues of posts that fall under equality, LGBT, disabled students, black and ethnic minorities, they're all very important campaigns. However, in my opinion, one officer can't offer each campaign the care and attention it deserves. I hereby put forward 2 solutions to this problem. Ideally, I would advocate the creation of these posts in order to make sure each campaign would be properly run and concentrated on. However, if this is not possible, I propose the creation of working groups in order to tackle these issues. The working groups would be run by people who identify one or more of these campaigns, and decisions, events and campaign issues made by the working groups will be endorsed and promoted by the Ruskin Student Union, and if need be, funding will be available. Another one of these issues I think falls under equalities is the isolation of off-campus students. Many students who live off-campus, they feel isolated from student life. And of course, university is not just about studying and getting a degree and just sort of coming in, doing a course and leaving on the same day. It's also important to consider the student experience. For all students here, we all deserve that side of the student life. Many off-campus students have other responsibilities like childcare, which hinder their access to meetings and other college events and indeed student life in general. I propose that we have some sort of subsidised childcare in order for these people to be able to experience student life, maybe go out for a night with friends and sort of come here, go to meetings that we offer, and participate in student life rather than just sort of coming in on a Tuesday, doing your course, going home, getting on with it. I mean, I have a friend in my course, Gidra. She's got a small child, and literally all she does is come in on a Monday for a tutorial, Tuesday for a lesson, Thursday for a lesson, she just goes home. And she's actually said to me a few times, well, I don't have time to do anything because I can't afford childcare. And, well, I think this is a massive problem. I mean, what I propose to do about this, I propose to sort of lobby the college or maybe local childcare services to offer some sort of subsidised childcare so people can afford it, people can, come and experience student life, even with children. I also will try and make sure that sort of events promoted by the college or student union will be scheduled at such a time that is sort of most accessible to people, as it were. Okay. Also another issue is sort of the access to Oxford University facilities. We're given the opportunity to make use of services offered by Oxford University. Like we can go to the lectures, we can go to the seminars, we can use the library and the societies as well. Whilst I feel people here make good use of the library, I'm sure you do, I know I do, I feel this college doesn't provide enough information about the other facilities offered. Hang on, I've lost my place. Offered. As a qualities officer, I'll make sure that students have an up-to-date information on lectures, seminars and societies, so we can make full use of all the opportunities offered to us due to our relationship with Oxford University. Oxford is one of the best universities in the world, and we basically have access to a world-class education, and by lack of information we're being deprived of these opportunities, and full use of these opportunities should be made. Ruskin Student Union access as well. The Ruskin Student Union as it stands seems to be, as I see, isolated from the student body. I mean, I'm not saying this is entirely the fault of the student union, as I know the union aren't actually allowed to email the student body at the moment, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Because, you know, how are the student union going to inform the student body of things that are going on so you guys can have full benefits from the student union? Anyway, so I'm going to lobby the college to let us have our own email address, maybe for each office, so we can email the student body and basically update you on all our progress, our campaigns, events that might be going on, etc. If not, I will find a way around this, I always do. I propose we set up an independent email address, and people can sign up to it if they want, so we won't be invading student privacy by sending them an email. As they say, people will voluntarily receive emails from us. I have a minute left. Oh shit. Okay. Also, I believe we need to have a strong anti-fascist movement. We need to have a strong LGBT movement, and we need to have a strong anti-cuts movement as well. As we know, we're under a time of austerity, and with austerity comes a lot of bigoted views. I mean, if you look at Greece, you have the rise of Golden Dawn, who go into hospitals, taking out, like literally dragging immigrants out, chucking them out onto the street, and we have a rise of nationalism in times of hardship, because these people, they can go out, they can say, well, it's obvious, isn't it? You know, austerity, it's the foreigners, and anyone can say that, and people buy it because it's an easy argument to comprehend, because it's sort of so localised. So this is why I think we need to affiliate with the Unite Against Fascism movement, and advocate a no platform for fascist policy here. Also anti-cuts as well. As we know, there are so many cuts going on, like they're affecting the student body, they're affecting disabled people, and like for instance, a lot of disabled people are now being put under these horrific tests to determine whether they deserve to be on capacity or not. I mean, this happened to my aunt. There's literally no job she can do in the world. They decided she was fit for work. We're also going to see cuts to student grants, like the Disabled Students Allowance, which I know many people sort of rely on, like my friend Robin here. And I think it's important that we have this sort of anti-cuts presence. Anyway, I've been going on about all the serious stuff, so I'll go on to the fun stuff.
I'm going to cut you off quite shortly.
Okay. Fun stuff, basically safe-based meetings, food, drinks, tea. We can have discussions about these issues if have to have discussions about these issues, but generally just sort of events that bring people together and sort of like help us integrate into the student body and get to know each other. So vote for me. Thanks.
Yes, I just want to congratulate all the candidates on their speeches. You did really well. And also, my question is that in each of your various sectors, we're living under sort of government-imposed austerity at the moment. The people you represent will be feeling that. how are you going to help those people at their time of need in relation to budget cuts?
Who wants to take that first? Is that to all then?
Yes.
Well, should we go from this side? Amy, do you want to go first?
Okay. Well, obviously, we're under attack at the moment. Students are under attack. This is just something I've heard through the grapevine. Apparently, they're working to get rid of our bursaries. We can't let this happen. We have to have a strong anti-austerity movement. We have to be out there on the front line, taking advantage of, sort of making use of our, really radical past. We know this if we still had our archives. We need to be out there. We need to be funding coaches. We need to be going to anti-cuts demonstrations, and we need to be making our presence known and making it known that we don't tolerate these cuts. I also think we need to be keeping our student body informed on all these cuts as well by having regular meetings, talking about these issues. Yeah.
We'll just get some quick answers and we'll take your question.
So I think that there needs to be more access towards information, because there is some childcare subsidy, so I've been told at Ruskin, but I don't know how to access it. I've been to reception and asked them, they said talk to finance weren't very helpful. There needs to be better communication and things, and I'd like to be able to set that up. I also think that just having women meeting together to discuss their problems will empower us. And I want to just start from a grassroots level and just get women working together, discussing their issues and working together to empower themselves.
What I do as welfare is try and educate people how to live in the means that we're going to have to live in. So, thriftiness, working on a budget, working at ways where you can make meals stretch longer, working how to do a good shopping budget, things that you're going to have to use in an austerity time. It's great, we're going to have to campaign and show them that we don't want the cuts, but while that's going on, we're going to need to learn how to live in the budget that we've got. So, as welfare, I try and support people in that way, set up groups, publish information, and see if that helps alleviate some of it, really.
Question.
Yeah. This is welfare, but for all of you. It's not just women who are affected by the cuts, all of us are. There are a lot of people here who have problems with welfare benefits. When you hit the age of 60, you don't get a maintenance loan. You're expected to live on the grant. There are problems and issues around welfare benefits. There is no information on campus at all about it. There are people who come here, even on ransackers courses. There was one chap here last year, he spent the first 2 weeks of his ransackers running around trying to get his benefit restarted because they stopped it, because he was on a 10-week course, which they shouldn't have done. There's no information available on campus at all as to exactly what welfare benefits students are actually entitled to claim. In a lot of cases, there could be money out there available to us that we don't know about. And this isn't just on the campus, nationally. There's more money than the government's trying to save in unclaimed benefits every year, because people don't know what they're entitled to. So it would help if we had some information point that said this is what you're entitled to. Or if there are people who are having problems or issues with student finance, or where you're told, well, you've got to go to this agency, or this agency to get it, and they're all saying, no, you have to go here. Somebody who will act as an advocate or an agency to work with people to help them to get what they're entitled to. As regards your childcare, I don't know what the thing is here, but I'm sure there must be somewhere locally where we can arrange things. To do it on campus is horrendously difficult because of the rules and regulations around providing it. It's obviously going to be even easier to find an established childcare provider and get a subsidy to use it and try and set something up here. That's just out of some background knowledge of my own. But as far as it goes, is there any way we can get some sort of provision on welfare benefits information for everybody?
I think personally that the university have just not published any information about anything at all. And then when you do try and ask them, you're right. You go, oh, go there, go there, go there, go there. And it's just a mismatch of miscommunication. So what I try and impose is you know, finding out the pathways for each thing and going, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. If you can't do it, we'll try and help you find another route. But I think we've all been left alone to do it on our own, and I don't think that's very fair. So I think it is time that we started to look at things and try and find a pathway and help people, because especially with student finance, I got so stressed with them, it was making me unwell, and I'm sure there's a lot of students who have the same problem. So having someone that can advocate for you is really important, because some students might not be able to handle it. The thing with childcare, you do get a loan from student finance. It is dependent on your partner's earning if you have a partner, but they do subsidise quite a lot of it. It would be impractical to have a nursery here, you know, because of the public liability insurance. But I think it's important that Ruskin appreciate that some students do have tiny children and they might need some help along the way. And I know that there has been problems with students who've been given misinformation and racked up huge bills at nursery. And it's taken them a long time to try and battle with Ruskins to help them with that because of that misinformation. So what I do is try and find out the nurseries around the Ruskin area, point them so parents could find somewhere close for their children to go. Obviously I find out the price, which is the important thing. And also talk to universities about what help they do give people who don't get the student grant for childcare, because that's where the misinformation was given. So that's what I do. And also the stay and play thing, so that we can make alliances with other young parents, with little kids, and we could make friends, and there might be a day where...
Can we move things along a bit?
Yeah, fine. I was just saying, if there was a day on Tuesday and she's on Wednesday, we could swap children, you know.
We've got brief responses.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with all the points the gentleman made. I don't think that Ruskin has provided all the information that we need to survive as students, and I think like the student union as a whole needs to change that and put all the information out there so students do know where to go to get different subsidies and things.
Yeah, absolutely agree. This is what I was saying about, I mean, something as little as the Oxford University facilities. We are given absolutely no information about anything. We are expected to go and do our own thing and try and work out how to use things on our own. And this is the point of the Ruskin Student Union. This is why it has to be in touch with the student body. So information, so it can be a go-to for people to people to get the information they need in order to survive as a student. So this is why I think the college and the student union need to have all this information to hand. They need to be in touch with the student body, and they need to be holding meetings as to how people are supposed to access these benefits they're supposed to have. Thanks.
Thanks very much, folks. Yeah, quick questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's
very
quick.
quick responses.
There should be quite a quick answer, I think. Obviously, there are a lot of problems with information coming from the management as to how we access certain things, but on top of that, a great deal of problems that students face at the moment, legislative or come from the government, such as access to welfare is cut once you become a student or greatly reduced, and you know, the fees are going up to £9 for various people, and a whole host of these problems are on a bigger picture than just a college. And will you back, or how will you back campaigning for students' rights to defend education?
Okay.
Whoever wants to go first? Quick responses.
Right.
Try and
Okay.
keep it brief.
Okay, right. Usually there are quite a few demonstrations, and strikes. What we'll do is we'll make sure students remain informed on these demonstrations as well, provide coaches. On top of that, I propose we have meetings here on austerity, sort of telling us what exactly is going on, just to keep people informed so people know how to campaign and everything. And I think that's another thing. I think we should be having workshops on sort of campaigning as well. Because, you know, we do need to be on top of this. We're a radical college. We set up in 1899 for working class education. We need to be at the forefront of this battle against the government, and they're screwing over the students and everyone else, except the bankers.
Yeah, I just think that the student union should provide coaches and similar so that students can go to demonstrations, and I think the student union should provide all the information about campaigns that are going on and just get the student body involved in everything.
I agree with them too, so I'm not going to repeat myself.
This is why we need an email list.
Okay, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hello, I'm a political studies student and I would like to be your Vice President. There's many things that I could say or do, but my basic thing to say to you today is that all I really have to offer you is plain language, simple arguments and common sense. I can't go into, I think it's stupid when people just keep going on and on and on about what they will do and what they want to do. We should be talking about what we can do. I personally feel that we can extend the level of democratic accountability with the student union. It's failed spectacularly in the past few years. I mean, it's been proven today that we're now in February and we're only just having student union elections when term started in October. So I think we need to make constitutional amendments to the student union constitution that gives you the right to recall your representatives when they just don't do their work. I think it's utterly stupid, but I also think we need to add in, sorry, 2 seconds. Sometimes I go a little bit too fast and I have to slow down. I think we need to extend democracy throughout the college so that everybody has a say on absolutely everything, and that your representatives are simply your delegates there to do your bidding. Other things I would like to do are, well, I'd like to make the college work for you, not just so that the college meets the needs of the students and not just the profits that they seek to make. So I'd like to make sure that we had a nurse on site maybe 1 day a week to deal with students' healthcare problems, whatever they may be. We've got a counselling service and that's brilliant, but I think we need to look at the more physical side of things as well. Obviously there's a hospital and the doctor's up the road, but it's not always accessible, and if you're not from the local area, you might not always feel comfortable going there. Especially occasionally with those sort of services, you have to end up deregistering with your GP back home, and that can cause a whole world of problems. I'd also, obviously, as many have said, start building up the sort of an anti-cuts movement at Ruskin, but I don't think we can just do it ourselves. I do think we need to link up with Oxford University and with Brooks as well to fight this. We're all students and Oxford is our city, and we need to make sure that the city knows that it belongs, it obviously belongs to the community, but also it belongs to us as well, and we should have a say in how it's run, lobbying the council for services that we require. I'm also entirely for building up a strong sort of anti-fascist movement at Ruskin, but again, I believe we need to link those things up. It's not just to link them up so that we're stronger, but also so that it makes it easier for us all, because to be perfectly honest, I don't have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to spend on student union work, but I will give as much as I can, and you don't all have enough time to be focusing on that as well, but if we all work together through solidarity, we should be able to achieve what we can at the most. There's all dust on my table. Yeah, a minute and a half, bloody hell, I've spun quite quickly. And that time is gone. To be perfectly honest, as I said, I'm just really here to do your bidding. I want to start building up sort of a cultural events at Ruskin as well. I recently got a speaker down Martin Walker and brought in the outside community. We had 80 people here, and that's a start. I'd like to see 800 people come from Oxford. I think that'd be absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I think, and also I want to build up the student unions links with the trade union movement. Obviously Ruskin has a deep embedded history within the labour movement, and I think Ruskin can be a place where the labour movement and the student movement come together, and that we can achieve everything that we want to, and that together we can make a difference.
Hello, my name's Dean Miller and I'm a second year student on the Youth and Community programme. It's been a really interesting year since I've been here, but I've not had much contact with the student union, and it's one of the primary reasons why I'm kind of coming forward and going for the role of president. And I've had quite a bit of thought about what I would do as a president of the student union, and every time I think about that, I keep moving away from the I. coming back to the we, because I think the student union is more about one person. It's about everybody. And it's about everybody kind of coming together and working together to face the challenges that have been thrown at us by the college, by the government, and by other sectors of society. And it's really, we can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. We all know the academic demands that are on us. This term we've got a 6,000 word assignment to do, plus we've got a whole host of other assignments to do on top of that. So it's about being realistic. So I can't do everything on my own. So what I would like to create is an environment where we all work together, where we all come together and we focus on the issues that are important to us all. And one of the ways in which I think we would do that is by having regular meetings. And when I say regular, I mean every week. But I want to move away from this idea of the bureaucratic nature that exists within the college, and I've been frustrated by that time and time again. The number of meetings I've been to where we've been pushed aside, we've been batted down, and things have just been moved away, and yeah, we'll rush that through, don't worry about it, we'll deal with it later, or we'll get somebody to come along and deal with it in 3 months' time. And that's been the theme, that very bureaucratic way of doing things, and it's been a massive challenge. And it's been a challenge to actually fight that. One of the ways in which I felt that I have achieved that is by being incredibly vocal and not sitting down and not accepting no for an answer. And I've had to be vocal about that. But it's made me quite unpopular with some of the lecturers, certainly with the principal on occasion it's made me quite unpopular. But it gets results, and that's the important thing. We need results. So I want to foster an environment where we come together, we work together, we foster hope, unity and respect for each other. And that's respect for students and also for lecturers and other staff members and everybody that works within the college. And we create that relationship and we create that bond. But we can only do that as a group of people that come together and actually focus on that. I've heard issues of racism, I've heard issues of sexism, and I've had people come speak to me about those issues. And they need to be challenged. You know, we just can't sit back on our laurels and not actually do anything about it. So we've looked at ways in which we challenge that, and one of the things that we do on the Youth and Community course is we focus on actually challenging those elements when we see it. And we've worked quite hard at doing that, and one of the ways, again, that we've been doing that is in that kind of group environment, and that's coming together as a group and people identifying it and challenging it there and then. And that's a problem that I've faced, certainly from the bureaucratic element from the college. Racism, sexism, homophobia, I've heard lots of talk about LGBT, I've heard lots of talk about women's groups and welfare officers, and you know what, we all need to kind of come together. No one person can do it on their own. Campaigning is absolutely vital. We need to get out there and we need to get our message heard. My hope is to create the space that people can come to and get their voices heard. And the only way that I feel that we can do that is, one, move away from the bureaucratic way of actually sitting there and everybody putting up their hands and I will speak and you only get 5 minutes and these meetings are actually only going to go on for an hour. If you need me there at 12 o'clock at night, I'll still be there. I do have a home to go to, but this role requires commitment. And the only way that I can take on this role is with 150%. So that's what I'm offering, but it's going to take more than one person to do it. I need your help, you need the college's help, we need the help of everybody. Vote for me.
I'm Matthew Smith, first year social and political studies student, and I'm running to see Ruskin Student Union, which is a strong democratic and campaigning union which will represent as many students here as possible. If you think much of the identity of the Ruskin Student Union at the moment is a body which is fairly invisible, has a structure which is there, had lots of problems over the last couple of years, but at a time when austerity is attacking higher education, further education, we've seen a Ruskin Student Union which has basically been on the side I come as a trade unionist for about 7 years. I've been representing people within casework through fighting back against austerity cuts to closures in my area in Kingston. What I would do as a student union is several issues in particular. The democracy of the union fundamentally is met twice in the term that I've been here. At the start, I would create weekly general meetings and completely transform the constitution of the RSU. Much similarly to what Max has mentioned, I'd have a completely strong recall element within this of sort of a 30% vote if officers aren't doing their job. And I'd also make sure that this is a constitution which is put in immediately, as well as creating officers for part-time, for ransackers, recreating the other roles for LGBT, disability and ethnic minorities. But I can say here to you now, you can have the strongest democratic constitution in the world, weekly meetings, very enthusiastic officers, but they will mean nothing if no one turns up to general meetings nobody wants to go to. So fundamentally, for the democracy of the union, we need an absolutely strong campaigning union. And what this involves is over 3 things in particular. Accommodation and housing, firstly. I think we have a situation at this college where huge numbers of students, before the term had started, when we moved onto this site, have been told they were given accommodation, then 10 days before were told they weren't. And I found that completely unacceptable. Many people with sort of mental health issues, I think we need to be fighting, at the moment when the college is planning for further student accommodation to be built on site, I think we need to be making sure that this is clear and democratic and open, and we need to be making sure the voices are put there. We also need to go to the Oxford University and Oxford Brookes student unions and starting a housing campaign in Oxford, so we get the cowboy landlords, everyone else who is ripping off students with high rents, extortionate rents and extortionate costs for the standard of housing in Oxford, which isn't particularly some of the best in the country. I'd also be launching a student worker campaign, and this is under what I previously did to Ruskin, places at Royal Holloway University, of Kingston University. We did with the GMB trade union, launched a student worker network where this fought for students to identify themselves as workers. The low pay, casualised conditions they usually suffer, we helped to organise them. We won at Royal Holloway, for instance, things over health and safety, higher pay, higher terms and conditions. We got them to identify collectively that some of the most powerful things you can do and the best way you can survive with being a student being as expensive, more expensive than it's ever been, is to you see the places where you work as somewhere where you can fight back. And fundamentally as well, I think we need an anti-cuts assembly at Ruskin. And this is because over the last couple of years we've seen cuts to the public history MA, we've seen cuts to the tripling or doubling here to 7,500 of tuition fees. Minute and a half, okay. And we're seeing lots of rumours and whispers and here and which about getting rid of the bursary for certificate of higher education, or just tweaking it as such. This has been spoken before about the bureaucracy of the college, but I will be having an incredibly strong anti-cuts assemblies that will be happening on the most regular basis possible, that will be involving the broadest scope of students. But to be getting those anti-cuts assemblies going, kind of a cross-section across the college, we need to be taking issues such as liberation and equalities as seriously here as anybody else. This place has a history of sparking off the second wave feminist movement, of having one of the world's first ever student strikes. If we can't take liberation, autonomous spaces where ethnic minorities, LGBT people, women, traditionally marginalised and oppressed groups seriously on campus, where they can meet and campaign for things over History Month, things over sexist language, incidents that happen on campus. We can't take them and bring them in as some of the groups of society most affected by cuts, disproportionately affected by cuts. We can't, I believe, take many things seriously. So finally, I think as well, what I will be initiating, is kind of a complete transformation of the facilities of the college. It's been mentioned that there is a massive disconnect between the part-time, the ransackers, the people who live off campus, people who are single parents, and the residential students. We have a number of classrooms in and around on the library. I think we could transform one of them into a common room, lobby the college there. We absolutely need to change the common room and completely overhaul it as somewhere that looks like a young offenders common room. Let something that is appropriate for the student body here. And finally, I think as well as setting up societies of everywhere, which has been done and needs to be brought on a hell of a lot more, I think we need to be putting on event nights, social nights, anything anybody wants to do, poetry slam, which has been up at the moment. Okay, so if you'd like to see a campaigning, democratic, strong student union that will be there for you on campus all the time and will fight for your corner, vote for me. Thank you.
Yeah, there's two questions, sorry, I'm being greedy. The first, Max, you spoke about accountability and almost how the student union body could act like delegates. I wonder if the three of you could expand slightly on that and how you think we can make the student union accountable, because I'd like to congratulate you on all of your speeches. I think they're fantastic and I'd support every one of you, but I want to know that you're going to do that. And secondly was just about housing, and that, yeah, there are people that were guaranteed a place to live here and then just before term started had to move elsewhere, and it now costs them more to live there than they get in fees, and these people are being screwed over, and I wonder how we could help them. So yeah, those two questions for all of you.
Can I just interject with a quick point of information? I think in the current constitution, I think you can actually, a vote of no confidence can be made in any election officer, so there is some element of being able to recall officers, but just a sure. Go for it.
Would you like to begin? Okay, I'll start. Personally, I think the role of... It's a bit difficult because it's in two sides. Your student union representative is there to be innovative and guide in many ways, but they also do serve a bureaucratic function, which is quite sad but also inevitable. I think that student reps would have to hold sort of weekly or at the very least sort of monthly forums in which students can come to them to ask some questions about the work that they've been doing. You can have general meetings, but these things do tend to get swept aside so that the business that is going on for that meeting gets done. I'd like to see power, sort of student union power, devolved out to everyone so that we all could. It's not just solely down to your representative to make the final decision. Big stuff always has to be voted on, because otherwise you're bestowing too much you're not only just bestowing too much responsibility on someone, but you're bestowing too much power on them to make decisions that you may disagree with. I mean, I, for example, could have one view on how something should be done that is entirely different to the rest of the student population, but because I have that position, I automatically have the final say. And I don't think that that's how it should be done. I think it should be a constant conversation back and forth between us all about how we'd like to see things done, and that we're just here in some ways to provide that more sort of the bureaucratic part of that. Could we do these in bits?
Just all three answer that, and then we'll come back to the second question. We'll see if anyone else has a question, and maybe come back to the second question.
Okay. Delegate, how do you keep accountability in delegates? Absolutely, fundamentally strong constitution, weekly meetings, and this. But unless we're starting up a newsletter, unless we start completely transforming the social media, unless we have an enormous presence and force an enormous presence onto the quite out-of-date intranet system that we have. Unless we kind of make sure that people are visible, make sure that they're going out and actually using the NUS resources and National Union of Students, a body that we pay a huge sum of money for such a small student union to be affiliated to, yet barely use. It's the visibility, it's running the campaigns on anything you want to see happen. For myself, on linking into housing in particular, it's a disgrace that they've essentially been speaking to one student who won't mind me really saying that she has mental health difficulties, and she's on, I can't remember the name of the place, it's a couple of miles away from here, and she's been completely left behind, not just been turfed out. I think we have a wonderful mansion, like William Shakespeare type looking building over there called Stoke House, which is owned by the trade unions, but even if it meant some like shifting from time to time, I think the fundamental responsibility is to put people who are here, particularly on full-time courses in those situations, into there. But if we're thinking of housing more generally, this is one of the most expensive places in the country to live. Unless we can start a campaign with the official bodies and other campaign groups, there's like living wage campaigns, there's been isolated sections of student rent strikes in Oxford University, and do a broad, not just a housing, but a cost of living campaign. See this as a fighting body, see this as something which will represent people and bring the mass of people on. Again, will feed into the accountability, because we'll just be more visible as a way of doing that. If we focus on that, take the history of radicalism and inspire us to move forward, I think you'll be as accountable as you want us to be.
The one word that springs to my mind is evidence, and that's about grabbing our evidence. that's about collating all of that information, bringing it together, and taking that forward. And one of the ways in which we can do that is by using the resources that are available to us, whether that's the internet, whether that's email, phone systems, whatever it is. There's not been enough of that. So we need to make that information available. We need to make available a way of collating all of that information and understanding what the issues are for everybody, and then taking that forward and then, you know, fighting the various bodies. So in terms of campaigning, I think the campaigning happens at multiple levels, and, you know, going forward to the principal and, you know, outside of that to the local authorities as well. But to do that, we need to gather the evidence, and that's the one thing that I'm, you know, very keen on, because without it, our argument falls apart. So we need that information.
To that question.
Right. Partly to do with what we've already been speaking with. Some of the students who were promised accommodation here are on my course, and we were given 24 hours notice to accept or refuse accommodation at Brooks Slade Park. This isn't Cowboy Landlord, this is Slade. 4 of them are in ensuite bedrooms, similar to that across there, and sharing one kitchen. I had a reasonably big studio flat in London for 12 quid a week more than they're being charged for that. £139 a week they're being charged. And it's not even a studio flat. That's Brooks, not a studio, not a rip-off landlord. So you've got a big fight on your hands on that one. Secondly, yeah, there are problems over accommodation. The bursary, we were told, when we got it, said it covered everything, it covered you for the year. Then you get here and we're told, no, it doesn't cover you for the holidays. I lost 2,000 quid in savings through having to pay to stay here during the holidays. I now, because I'm 60, don't get the maintenance loan. So I've now got issues to deal with to sort that out. So accommodation's a big problem across the board for everyone. Next, again, on the same thing where we're tutors. When we came here, we were told tutorials would be 1 to 2, but they turned out to be 1 to 3. Well, okay, fair enough, I could live with that. It's better than most other colleges. Then during the first year, one of our head of department was taken ill, then taken ill again, and then we were short of tutors, and they took somebody on who was supposed to be able to cover his side of it as well. Lo and behold, they took on Namita, who's very good at what she does. Tom took ill again, but in the meantime, the head of the writing for performance, for health reasons, has left. So we're now back down to the same number of tutors as we had in the first place. Tom's off sick again, and we're having classes having to be rescheduled towards the end of a term when we've all got assignments, and there aren't enough tutors to meet the course, to meet the needs of the course. There haven't been since we got here. Now we're paying for this. We're paying for these classes, and all of a sudden they're having to be rearranged, and it's not the fault of the tutors, it's the fault that, again, something is not right here when tutors are, I mean, in the time I've been here, 3 tutors have left.
Can we formulate this into a question?
So, I mean, is there a way we can look into this? And from the point of view of the students tutorials are suffering, and there's something not just our courses are suffering because we're not getting the level of tuition we're supposed to have, or the number of hours face-to-face, because the backup for tutors going ill isn't there, because every time they replace it, somebody else goes off, leaves.
Yeah,
is that okay if I begin? I'll start with the tutor situation. There's various reasons why that's happening. I think that there's a very big and worrying issue with what is going on with the management structure at the moment, and they're not being given support, but at the same time they're not really being given freedom to work, and that's putting a world of stress on them that they really don't deserve to have. They're here to educate us, not to administrative tasks all the time. So that needs to be freed up. But a lot of it, your problem that you've been bringing up, David, with the fact that there's not the right people there to help you when one drops out, is down to budget constraints.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is that this also goes into housing. If it means that the college gets into a bit of debt, well, there's good debt and there's bad debt. There's bad debt that is run up by with excessiveness, and there's good debt run by providing services that people need. And the key service is obviously providing the tutorials that you need. So I think that case really needs to be argued, but there also has to be a complete student-pushed review of the way that the management deals with staff and the way that the entire management structure is run, because it seems to be full of too many bureaucrats and too little people who are actually here to do the academic side of things. Is that an okay answer?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. It's not the fault of the tutors,
no,
it's the fault of the management side.
Because I'm just aware that time's up. Onto housing, there's been much talk about selling off the fields over there to private property developers so that they can make a profit off our land. Pretty much Bill, the resident tutor, his house is going to be sold off because the college is short of money. Now, I've just obviously mentioned the fact that there's such things as good debt and there's bad debt. Now, I think, and I'm sure quite a few of you agree, that I would rather the college got into a bit of debt by building us accommodation on those fields, and they're not going to pay it off in 2 to 3 years, but over sort of 10, maybe 15 years, the money will come back to them. We should be able to provide accommodation to every student if they so wish. And I think that that's what needs to be made available. So I'll be pushing for accommodation for students to be built on those fields, not accommodation for private property owners.
Would you have responses from the other guys?
Yeah.
Can keep it brief because I'm probably
another
sort of 5 minutes.
Issue with the tutors. I wouldn't necessarily comment on just individual tutors' cases in particular, other than to say it's quite a noticeable fact, as Max said, the stress load on lots of the tutors. Our own, for instance, 3-4 weeks in a row had to work 7 days a week. I'm sure that breaks some kind of European time directive on working hours. This is fundamentally an issue of budget cuts, of natural wastage of staff. I think the problem generally tends to come with stress and such of people in education, and it comes from the top. So what we can do as an RSU, I think all the governorship meetings, all the meetings which of academic boards in particular, I think they need to be publicly available. Again, push through completely transform sort of social media, newsletter and other types of things. Have a complete transparent thing. Kind of governorship of how budgets and staff allocation and such are sorted, so we can, again, we'll get more people involved and we will hold the college to account and push it for as much kind of access and education teachers.
I'm working in conjunction with the tutors union, the staff union from the college. The whole point with that is we have paid for this education and they're not meeting their contract obligations to us by not having the staff available to teach the lessons or the number of hours that we're supposed to be taught.
You want to think about Dean?
I'm hearing a lot of frustration and anger, and I've kind of been hearing that, over the last 6 months, year or so, and certainly since the beginning of October when we all started. And for me, it's about channeling that anger. And it's for me, it's about directing it in the appropriate places and understanding where we need to kind of direct that. I'm not going to profess to have solutions for you. Simply, I don't. But what I do want to do is to get out there and find out where we need to take the fight. And if that means we've got to take it to the principal, we take it to the principal. If that means we've got to take it to the local authority, we take it to the local authority. So that's really my response.
We'll take one more question, quick responses if we can, guys, because Amy did have a hand up first, actually. Sorry, Amy.
Right. Obviously, there's quite a strong UCU here. Do you think it's a student union's place to work in conjunction with the UCU and other unions that might operate here for staff?
I'll begin. Prior to coming to Ruskin, I probably should have mentioned this during my little speech at the start, but I was a G&B rep at my workplace for 4 years. So trade unionism does run deep within me. I personally feel that when UCU does take a vote, as I believe they're currently considering to go on strike, which obviously will affect us all anyway, I don't think we should just sit back at home and think, oh well, classes will start up the next day. I think we should all be out there with them on the picket line, letting the management know how utterly disgusted we are with the way that our academics are being treated. The stress that is being put upon them will ultimately affect the way that we're being taught. And there may be things that we won't notice we're not being taught, but that we're not being taught simply because they haven't had the time to put that into their lesson plans and so on, or simply they're just too stressed to even bother doing it. So I'd like to see the possibility of when the staff go on strike that we have another student strike, as we did many years ago.
So the University Colleges Union and Unison as well, let's forget the cleaners and clerical staff. Yes, as I mentioned as well, I've been a GMB rep and working in restaurants and other kind of casual-based places. This is, from what I understand, all of the lecturers are all in the UCU union. They've just moved away from Oxford University. Broadly, trade unions are the people who brought you the weekends. Trade unions were the part that bring you most of the pressure coming from the below for things like the welfare state and everything that's fundamentally good in society. UCU in particular, I think, can be the central organisation along with the RSU that will fight back to put back that radical tradition here. I think, again, from one of the previous questions over staffing levels and stress and other things there, but they will be the body that will help fight back with that. But if we can't be, we can't have representations goes to there, the other broad trades council that exists in Oxford. If we can't do that, then we'll lose the absolute one of the most fundamental piece of potential that we can have to fight back, because again, at a time of austerity, it's unions which have mobilised hundreds of thousands of people on the streets and millions of people onto strike. They are the best weapon we have to fight back.
The simple answer is yes. Strengthen unity, collaboration. I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it? I mean, that's the challenges that we've got today, and the only way that we're going to form those alliances is by getting out there and meeting those people and working together and fostering those relationships, building those relationships. That takes effort, that takes time, and that takes commitment. So understanding the issues from multiple perspectives, yes, is the answer. We do.
Magic. I'm probably going to call a halt to things there. A few people left and stuff, but just thanks everyone for turning up. Thanks to all the candidates for turning up, and good luck to everyone on Thursday. And it's been really good to hear your talk.
And thank you, Kit, for organising all this. I think that has to be said. So.